Chari. Thank you. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Jayora Damadava Kunja Bihari. Jayo Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari. Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari. Yashoda Nandana Braja Jana Ranjana. Yashoda Nandana Braja Jana Ranjana. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Jayo Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Kunja Bihari. Shri Shri Radha Madhava Ki Jai Ho. So actually yesterday I was explaining, according to the Goswamis, what Madhava means. Does anybody remember anything what we said yesterday about Madhava?
I have notes.
You have notes?
Yes.
So let's see what the notes say. If the, what is it?
Consort of Lakshmi.
Okay.
They're from the dynasty of Madhu. It's also referring to the spring season.
Yes. And?
Enjoys in the conjugal love.
Yes. And honey, the notes ki jaya. This is exactly what we were talking about, the Madhava yesterday. The Krishna's name was Madhava. And all these different things, different acharyas, actually, interestingly enough. One acharya said one thing and another acharya added to it. So in this way, our acharyas complement each other. So therefore it's, not bad to read the acharyas. So, today we read from the verse, from the 10th canto, 21st chapter, verse number 5. 10, 21, 5. So, because the text is a little bit too long, so I will just read it myself. Actually, before we start reading Srimad-Bhagavatam, Naranam Namaskrityam Naran Chaiva Narotamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jaya Mudirayat. And every day reciting Srimad-Bhagavatam, even this little dirt, what is left, very little dirt will leave in our heart. As I said yesterday, because if Krishna would take it all, our dirt will be very complacent and puffed up. And we will say, I don't need to be purified. I read Srimad-Bhagavatam. And Srimad-Bhagavatam promises everything from the heart will be eradicated. But Bhagavad says almost everything. So we have a little bit to do ourselves also. Hari Bol. My Papa is here. So, Narana Namaskritya Naram Chaivan Rotamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jaya Mudirayat Nashta Prayeshu Abhadrashu Nitya Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtiki. So, before we read Srimad Bhagavatam, we offer our obeisance to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Just one more thing, just as I just remember this verse, our class you gave Ananda Krishna Prabhu yesterday, day before yesterday, how all the gods, all aspects of Krishna are united. It's not like they are Vishnu is lying there, and he's like, and devotees of Krishna, they're looking, no, I don't want to go there. It's only Vishnu, I'm not going there. And Vishnu is looking, eating all these chips devotees offering, Shri Vishnu, Shri Vishnu. And you're thinking, oh, these Krishna's devotees. It's actually all one, interestingly enough, all one in tattva, all one in spirit. Because the example, one of the very nice examples is there was a one merchant, businessman. And we know businessmen, sometimes if they're pious enough, they like to give donation. The impious ones don't give donation, the pious ones give donation. So put the equation together. So he wanted to went to Badrinath. Badrinath is the place where Vyasadeva supposedly eternal resides, according to Madhvacharya. And Badrinath is place of Badrinarayan, where Krishna exists there eternally. This is high in the mountains. And this businessman went to Badrinath and he prayed to the deities, I want to give you some donation. And the deities appeared to him in dream next night, and they told him, actually, if you want to give donation, go to Uttar Pradesh in a place called Vrindavan, Braja, and find one sadhu. His name is Raghunath Das, and ask him, how can you give donation? So Raghunath was completely absorbed in meditation on Radha and Krishna's eternal pastimes. In his manasa seva, in his mind. It's called mind, but it's actually heart. And the businessman came, and he said, I did this dream, and what can I do for you? And he said, why don't you build the ghats on Radhakund and Shamakund for me? Because at that time, the Shamakund and Radhakund were just two small ponds, grown with all kinds of bushes and things like this. So he said, for the benefit of the people of Kali Yuga. And therefore we have Rupa Goswami, who has written the book Upadeshamrita, and there it is all in 3 verses out of how many? 11 verses. There are 3 verses talking about Radhakund, importance of Radhakund. And he said, who would not go to Radhakund to execute devotional service there? So it's sometimes we go too much to the other side and say, no, this is for Sahaja. But why would Rupa Goswami bother so much to write? And why would Raghunath Goswami bother to actually build this thing if it's forbidden? So it's not forbidden, it's just to be approached with a great caution and under the instruction of a spiritual master. So, I will just read this first. Barhapidam natavara vapu karnayo karnikaram bibradvasa kanaka kapisham vaijayantim chamalam randran venor adaras hudya purayan gopa vrindair vrindaranyam swapada ramanam pravishad gita kirti. Translation. Wearing a peacock feather ornamented upon his head, blue karnikara flowers on his ears, and yellow garment as brilliant as gold, and the Vaijayanti garland, Lord Krishna exhibited his transcendental form as the greatest of dancers as he entered the forest of Vrindavan, beautifying it with the marks of his footprints. He filled the holes with his flute with the nectar of his lips, and the cowherd boys sang his glories. The very similar verse what I read yesterday. Yesterday I spoke about different topic, and because that yesterday was Gopashtami, and we spoke how Krishna is entering the forest. That was the first, you can say, first time in his life, although Krishna is eternal, we know, and he performs his leelas eternally. The first time, at least in this leela, this recorded in the Srimad-Bhagavatam, he is entering the forest. So this is Gopashtami. The Krishna became big enough. He was already finished, completed his 5th year, and now he's age of 6. And his father, they were discussing seriously business. What are we going to do with our son? He's already grown up now. He's 6. So he should worship. He should now take care of not of the calves, but of the cows. It's a big responsibility in the cowherd community, to take care of the cows. So, and this is another, today I wanted to do like a last of all this series of the Vrindavan and Vrindavan Leela, Damodar Leela, of baby Krishna and Govardhan Leela. So just last, you can say meditation. Because then we will speak about this meditation. What is actually meditation? And why it's important to meditate on Krishna? What does it mean to meditate on Krishna? So this is the Krishna we want to meditate on. As in our Sampradaya, each Sampradaya has Ishta Devata, and different Sampradayas in, I think, Vallabha Sampradaya, they worship the Gopal Krishna, the small child Krishna who is eating laddu. This is their Ishta Devata, means the worshipable deity, the final goal. Ashraya, this is the goal of all goals. So this is our Ashraya. Our Ashraya is this. Krishna, who wears a peacock feather, ornamented upon his head, blue karnikara flowers on his ears. Krishna has the flowers. You know, the other day, Vedasara Prabhu put a garland on my head, and but if garland was smaller, he would probably put her on my ears. This is what devotees usually do. And you sometimes think, and I think, oh, this is ridiculous. But Krishna is actually wearing this all the time. So, not ridiculous. Then, what Krishna wears other things, he wears yellow garment as brilliant as gold. You know, gold can be very dazzling. Sometimes we have Nrsimhadev, you have this armor of gold. It's very dazzling. So Krishna's dhoti is so dazzling gold, like a dazzling gold. Then, what else is there? He wears his Vaijayanti garland. Vaijayanti garland is made of forest flowers, all the forest flowers. Then Krishna exhibited his transcendental form as the greatest of dancers. We'll see later, a little later on, is described why could it be, and because we know Krishna is very playful. In Vrindavan, in the Brahma Samhita, it is said, every word is a song and every step is a dance. So imagine everybody's dancing. And it's Haribol, Ishvara, Parama Krishna, how are you? You know, and Krishna is dancing and answering. And ultimately, the ultimate play or state of all the best things in the spiritual world in Goloka Vrindavan is a rasa dance. It's a dance also. So we better, you know, accept it. The dance is the big thing in there, you know. So Krishna is the best of the dancers. And then what is he doing? Krishna is beautifying Vrindavan by marks of his footprints. We also spoke about his footprints. When he was very small, his footprints were also smaller. You could not see all the signs because he was very light. And then he became 6, you know, became a little bigger, and his footprints were a little deeper. So you could see, oh, this is a flag. This is this and I don't know, fish. Does he have a fish? Who has a fish? So, and then on top of everything, this beautiful form of Krishna with these beautiful flowers, frolicking, enjoying, and very, you can say, whimsical, dancing in the forest. On top of it, he filled the holes of his flute with his nectar lips. And the cowherd boys sang his glories. So he's playing the flute on top of it. We saw yesterday, this is described, how long is the flute? Anybody remembers? 3 fingers, they said. 3 fingers. So it's something like this. It's very small, but Krishna is also very small. If he's 5 years old, how big flute does he need? You know, it's a small flute, so he can actually play. And so this is the stage, this is the Krishna we want to meditate on. And then the cowherd boys sang his glories. The cowherd boys are singing the glories of Krishna. So this is the verse here. So the purport, I think by Hridayananda Maharaj, or one of the servants, Gopa Puranadana, the gopis remembered all the transcendental qualities of Krishna mentioned in this verse. This actually gopis talks among themselves. This is how Krishna looks like. Krishna's artful way of dressing and the beautiful blue flowers placed over his ears excited the gopis' romantic desires. And as he poured the nectar of his lips into his flute, they simply lost themselves in the ecstatic love for him. So this is interesting in many ways. Why is it interesting? Interesting is because this is what gopis talk about among themselves when they meet. So therefore, a sadhu sangha association, the real association is to actually talk about Krishna, and to enlighten each other about Krishna. And therefore we have Bhagavatam classes for that reason, to actually hear about Krishna. So this is the, what is the verse in the Bhagavad Gita? They're always enlightening each other. Satatam kirtayantamam ye janam uparyupasate tesham nitya bhuyuktanam. No. Machita madgata prana. This is the verse. That they're always enlightening. The Buddha is always enlightening each other. Not that we just sit and we preach, you should do this, or you should do that. But actually enlightening each other about talking about Krishna. Oh, look at how Krishna it is. Look at today. Like for example, I want to ask, not pujaris, what color of dhoti Nrsimhadev had today? Yellow blackish. And what color had Prahlad Maharaj? Anybody here? And what is the background color of Nrsimhadev today? And what are ornaments in the back of Nrsimhadev? Sorry? Yellow with birds, yes, exactly, yellow. And Prahlad Maharaj also had yellow. So I just wanted to, not to give you a hard time, but I just remember that when I very much early joined, like 2 days in the movement, Pujari, he just came to me and he said, from today on, I want you to remember everything what Gaunitas are wearing, and I will ask you during the day. I was like, oh my God, Pujari. He was at that time 10 years in the movement. This was like Ewigkeit. Somebody's 10 years in the movement and tells you, I want you to remember this. And I was like, oh my God, I was shaking. And then he would come and ask me, what kind of earrings did Gaunita have today? What color and what shape? So every morning my darshan of the deities were very much anxiety, filled with anxiety. I have to always remember, and I was always remembering Gaunitai throughout the day. I don't want to say he tricked me, but this is the association of devotees. Devotees are actually, by the mercy of the devotees, we come to talk, enlighten each other about Krishna. Talk about Krishna. So, yes. So this is what gopis are talking about Krishna. Did you see Krishna like this? Did you see Krishna like this? And then the gopis were so much. Okay, I think I just go with the notes. I don't want to jump over too much. They said the cowherd girl said that those who sees this beautiful form, the face of Nanda Maharaj, these two eyes are the most fortunate. Said for those who have eyes to see Krishna and Balaram entering the forest and with the gopas, he said for those eyes there is no greater object of vision. So gopis, you can say the best preachers, This is it. This is the ultimate destination. There's no more destination than to see Krishna entering the forest. So somebody asks you, what is your, in India, moksha? Moksha is to see Krishna herding the cows, entering the forest. This is the highest, because this is actually higher than moksha. This is what we all should aspire to be, to see Krishna entering the forest. So this is some kind of, you can say, meditation. I have a little more notes here. Let me speak a little bit, let's go back a little bit and talk about Krishna. A little more about Krishna. The second part is more a philosophical part. So the first part is this, about Krishna. So the reason, Sridhar Swami, our favorite Acharya, commentator of Srimad-Bhagavatam, which was very important commentator of Srimad-Bhagavatam, even Lord Chaitanya acknowledges him, he said that the reason why the gopis describe this form, because this form or this particular look of Krishna disturbed their minds. So they would just try to describe Krishna, but they just couldn't describe it. They stopped describing Krishna. They couldn't speak anymore. Because this disturbed their mind so much, which is interesting, because we always speak about to have a peaceful mind, equipoised mind. One should not waver, like what is a lamp in the wind. When you put a lamp, the fire does not waver. Mind should be steady. Mind should be controlled. But yet we see that the best devotees, their mind is most disturbed. The most disturbed mind, because they cannot even speak of, oh my God, when I think about Krishna, they just could not speak anymore. So this is interesting, meaning that we do not try to, our goal, of course, is to, we follow Bhagavad Gita and we try to conquer the material world, but this is not the end in itself. To be equiposed in mind is not peace. I did it recently. I'm writing something and I asked ChatGPT I wrote like 4 sentences, 4.5. And I asked, can you finish the last fifth sentence, And he or she or it or they wrote something will eternal lasting peace. I said, no, no, I don't know. This is not the point, lasting peace, But this is what people have an idea. What is the ultimate goal of life? To achieve peace. And lots of preaching in India, particularly to the university students, they speak about mind control or peace, how to achieve peace, how to get rid of stress. When we had in Cologne, we had programs during the not Kartik, but COVID, during their Kartik, which is COVID. So people are coming, and there was one man, new people completely, never came before. He came and he said, I'm looking for peace. I was thinking, well, you won't find it here, You will not find what you're looking for. You will find some other peace. I told him this peace is actually to be completely get rid of the, not just to be peaceful from the problems, but to completely get rid of the problems. Because this disturbance was Gopi's experience is not an ordinary disturbance. This disturbance is transcendental disturbance, which also brings pleasure, highest pleasure, which is called prema. So disturbance, although externally may appear like ordinary girls are suffering because they're in love with ordinary boy, but in reality is that they actually experience this, of course, disturbance, but at the same time the highest bliss, which is a contradictory situation. And therefore, as we said yesterday or day before yesterday, Stas was asking, that our philosophy or our theology is very difficult sometimes to understand, because this is how Maya covers it. You wonder, how is this the girls are disturbed and at the same time they're the most blissful? But those who know, they know. Those who understand on this level, they understand. Anyways, to come back to Krishna, how Krishna looks like, I thought another interesting point is that in the verse, if you remember, Krishna had this Karnikara flower around his ears. You remember? Blue, exactly. I wanted to ask what color? Blue. And listen what Sanatana Goswami said. He had a Karnikara flower on each ear. The Karnikara flower is yellow and shaped like lotus. And I looked at the Karnikara flower online. What is a Karnikara flower? Karnikara flower is a very jolly flower. It's like going like this. Wow, if you put a little bomb and explodes, like, the leaves are kind of like all over, uneven, very frolicky, very happy flower. And it's yellow. And I asked, is there blue? Because then there is no such a thing as blue Karnikara flower. Yet, Srila Sanatana Goswami, Vandarupa Sanatana Raghuigo Shri Jiva Gopalaka, one of the 6 most important personalities in our existence, wrote the Karnikara flower is yellow. As we had also a little contradiction with Madhya Yashoda's color of the skin. In the Shastra, it is described that Madhya Yashoda's color is similar to Krishna's, like cloud, but at the same time, Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada said that the Srila Prabhupada says that Madhya Yashoda's color was golden. So this is the paradox. And so and then somebody sent me a link. Somebody said, I think Kripa Sindhu sent me that he can. There's description that she could be golden also. So yes and yes. So the spiritual world is full of wonder. So like this. All right. So let me see now. So this is interesting. When Krishna's entering the forest, the forest was suitable for the cows. Pashyavam. The cows would be happy, and there would be no effort to care for them. So meaning, if the cows are happy, you don't need to, like we have cows here, you don't need to herd them, go there. They just eat a little bit a day, mostly they sleep or hang out, Because if the grass is fresh, and the grass is very pleasing, they will just eat. And when they're eating, they said, we don't need to, they said, there will be no effort to care for them. So Krishna didn't put too much effort to care to them. And also, Krishna was surrounded by other boys. So these Krishna Balaram boys, they had the strength in a group, in unity. Thus, they had the elements for playing happily. So these are the elements there. To be together and to, have a favorable environment. And they said, okay, now everything is done, so we can actually just play. If you ever wondered, because sometimes you wonder, why would Krishna play in the forest while there's so many things to do with the cows? But actually, you see, Shri Nrsimhadeva Kija. Actually, you don't need to care much for the cows. They care about themselves. You just have to, Hare Krishna. You just have to, just let them do their own thing. And in Vrindavan, I was playing the flute, but I think I will skip the flute for the obvious reasons. So the next thing is Vrindavan means all senses engaged. All the senses, we have 5 senses. Sense of touch, sense of smell, sense of hearing, sense of speech. What is it? Tasting. All the 5 senses are actually engaged just by entering Vrindavan, just by being in Vrindavan. So therefore, there's this famous verse, Ata Shri Krishna Namadi, Na Bhavem Graham Indriyai, Sevan Mukyahi Jivadao, Swayameva Spuratyada. Material senses cannot appreciate the Krishna's holy name, form, or qualities and pastimes. When a conditioned soul is awakened to Krishna consciousness and renders service by using his tongue to chant the Lord's name and taste the remnants, the tongue is purified and one gradually comes to understand Krishna. So this is the gradual process beginning with tongue, and from this influences all other senses. So this is what Krishna, when Krishna entered Vrindavan, what did he see? This is what Vrindavan resembles. The bees, the birds and animals made charming sounds that brought sweet pleasure to the ears. The birds can be very pleasing. The animals, the bees, we talked about bees yesterday, how important bees are in Krishna Lila. They are the sages who recite. The humming of the bees is sweeter than reciting the Vedas. Very sweet sound. And the animals. We see the cow here. I went a few times, and as soon as a cow see me, she does moo. Like not really mooing, but like, did you bring anything to me for me to eat? Moo. I said no, I didn't bring anything. So this was very pleasing. This is the pleasing to the ear. So ears are immediately enchanted in the spiritual sound. The wind faithfully renders service to the Lord by blowing throughout the forest. So imagine you're a servant of Krishna in the form of wind. You're blowing. And you want Krishna wants you to blow here, you blow there a little bit. And then carrying the cool moisture of transparent lake and giving pleasure to the sense of touch. So sense of touch, when wind, you feel sense of touch. So this is also transcendental. So by hearing animals, by sensing the touch, and then also, this is interesting, by sweetness of the wind, even the sense of taste was being stimulated. Because sometimes when you open mouth, the wind enters your mouth, and even your sense of taste, palate, are satisfied by the wind in Vrindavan Dham. And by the fragrance of the lotus flower, bringing pleasure to the nostrils. There's so many beautiful flowers, then we smell, and then we experience transcendental bliss. We know from the Srimad-Bhagavatam that 4 Kumaras were smelling the smell of a lotus leaf on Lord Vishnu's feet. There's not much, it's just one leaf. And they somehow, because the senses are almost purified, they smell the lotus, they smell the flower, the leaf, and they immediately become, from Brahmavadis, they became personalists. Tulsi, did I say? Lotus? No, lotus, Tulsi, this is what I meant. Tulsi, that's why I say small. Tulsi, leaf, and then just, okay, Krishna exists, Krishna is God. So sense of smell is very important. When I very first time came to the temple, my first attack was the sense of smell. And devotees were making simply wonderfuls. And this butter and milk somehow, when I opened the door, it was like, wow, these never smell anything. I didn't even now remember this smell. This smell is like amazing. So this was like the first time, my senses were like, instead of, smelling whatever the, meat. And, I remember when I was very, very young, we go to some festival somewhere, like a Straßenfest, and then you smell the barbecue and you're like, smells great. I wouldn't mind having 6 of those, But actually, your sense of smell gets purified, and so these are our smells. We smell the lamps, the incense, the prasadam, and in time our senses also become, you can say, educated, and they can smell what is good, what is not good. And then the entire forest was endowed with heavenly beauty, which was giving spiritual bliss to the eyes. So that we see Vrindavan. So everything is, in Vrindavan Dham, everything is actually, all 5 senses are fully engaged. And this is just engagement of the senses. And what to speak of adding Krishna to it and a relationship with Krishna. So this is it, what I wanted to say about this. Now we're going back to meditation. So we are talking about the gopis. We say those who have eyes, this is their best usage of the eyes, to see actually Krishna in the forest standing, playing flute. We know Rupa Goswami said, if you have any material desires, please do not go to the bank of Yamuna, because Krishna is standing there, bending in 3 bending form, and he's playing his flute, implying that if you see Krishna like this, your material life is over. It is said, actually, I think Bhakti Ratnakara says that whoever sees Srimati Radharani, what will happen? One will develop prema immediately, just by seeing Srimati Radharani. So maybe, next time we go to Vrindavan, or maybe we think, I want to develop this prema. So this is the I don't know what is the quote, don't quote me on this, but this is the quote. So seeing Krishna is a very good thing. It's a very wonderful thing. So they said enemies of the Lord, like Kamsa, was always meditating on Krishna. We know when the Krishna was born, he wanted to throw the baby, the female baby, to the ground to kill her, and then this baby actually slipped out of his hand and in the air. And Durga Devi said, "You fool, Kamsa, you fool." This famous dramatic point, We had this one drama, and this one lady was standing on the chair, and she's just like this, "You fool!" Everybody was afraid. All the audience was, "Oh my God!" Imagine how Kamsa was afraid of Durga. You're actually the child who is to be killed. Is already born. So Kamsa was from that moment fully Krishna conscious, constantly thinking of Krishna. He's just, whenever he sits, wherever he goes, he was just thinking of Krishna. And so this is something to be, you can say, envied by the devotees. How much actually, at least this mechanical process, of course, his meditation was unfavorable, but ours should be favorable. But how much Kamsa could meditate on Krishna constantly, 24 hours a day? While sleeping also, he would think like, oh, he's going to kill me. So, similar to this, Prabhupada says, the demons and atheistic scholars who always challenge and misinterpret the real teachings of Bhagavad Gita, they think about the Lord with enmity because their intelligence has been covered in Maya. So that's why we don't read Mayavadi books, or we don't read books, not that we don't like these people, but because they are actually envious of Krishna. Or they are enemies of Krishna, you can say, because they are denying his existence. And I said this recently, how Prabhupada was very much not happy when we had this speech, and this one Mayavadi was speaking, and he starts one sentence, the Prabhupada interrupted, he said, Kirtan, Kirtan. And the Swami was like, what happened? Prabhupada says, I could not tolerate. Though somebody speaks about the Lord who doesn't have attributes, no arms, no legs, He says he cannot tolerate. There's Burijam Prabhu from his, I think that was in Hong Kong or somewhere there, Japan. So, so this is they said even Jarasandha and Kamsa were also erudite scholar, but because we are obsessed with Krishna with enmity, they were demons. So they were actually scholars. We sometimes think they're like, oh, ruffians. No, they're actually very sophisticated people. They're just, they were on the other side, enmity. So I just wanted to, for the end, there are 5 times of progressive Krishna, or meditation of Krishna, or Krishna Smarana. 5 times. One is the recollection, another one is absorption, another one is meditation, and constant remembrance of Krishna, and at last, trance. So at first, Krishna, remembrance of Krishna, recollection means recollecting, meaning we are sporadically thinking of Krishna. We think of Krishna when we come at 7 o'clock in the morning, Shri Nisimo, then we go eat, and then we think about chole, what is the chole? Chickpeas, and think about some other things. Then we talk some very important topics which nothing to do with Krishna. And then we go and then we read half an hour, and then we think about Krishna half an hour. Then we chant our rounds 2 hours, then we think about Krishna 2 hours. Then we sleep a little bit, and then we don't think about anything when you're sleeping. At least I don't, unless you are achieved the sushupti, transcended the sushupti level. Sushupti is there's different stages of sleep, and sushupti is the deep sleep, like a comatose sleep. So when we sleep, at least myself, I don't dream. I don't, just like complete dead. And then you wake up and you somehow think of Krishna again. But in reality, this time when you were sleeping, you were completely in Maya. You didn't think about Krishna. So just by Krishna's mercy, he protected you. You know, if you die, imagine you die and you become darkness. Not good, So therefore, when I was young Bhakta, I was afraid of this, and I was always having tape playing, Prabhupada chanting, because I thought if I sleep and if I die in my sleep, at least there's some sound will be there. I don't know how good it is for sleep, because you're supposed to have a peaceful sleep. But at the same time, our sleep should be reduced to as little as possible. At the final stages of our lives, we should, as Prabhupada mentioned this in the Bhagavad Gita, our best example is Rupa Goswami and Sanatana Goswami, who slept 2 hours, sometimes not even that. So this is our balancing material life and spiritual life, that we should actually reduce these things. Then this is the recollection, means we remember Krishna sometimes, but later this remember becomes uninterrupted. Just we constantly think of Krishna. So this is the next stage, you can say. Then when this remembrance is fully uninterrupted, then becomes meditation. Then we just completely meditate on Krishna. This is the meditation on Krishna. Then when this meditation expands and becomes constant, it is called anusmriti, or constant remembrance. And at the end, there's a samadhi, or trance. So just to speak a little bit about this, Tasmat sarveshu kaleshu, famous verse from Bhagavad Gita, mam manusmara yudhyacha, mayarpita mano buddhir, mam eva ishyasya samshaya. Therefore, Arjuna, Krishna says, you should always think of me in the form of Krishna. So this is what we should do, think of form of Krishna. And at the same time, carry out your prescribed duty of fighting. So this is this sporadic remembrance we do, but then we still try to remember Krishna. So we sometimes try to remember Krishna by force, as the Bhagavad Gita says, if your mind wanders, when we chant, we try to remember, oh, okay, or we read, you read 6th page of your Bhagavatam, and then you think like, oh, I don't remember anything, you know. So do you know, should I go back now, or should I, but then it's kind of embarrassing to read the first chapter for the 7th time, you know. So then you think like, maybe I should, okay, let me just start from 2nd chapter. I read something, you know. So we try to remember Krishna by mechanical means, you can say by force. This is the sporadic mam anusmara. And then at the same time, you have to fight. I mean, you do your duties, you live your life, and try to remember Krishna. This is this mam anusmara yudhyacha. Sorry? Haribol, yes, Haribol. The answer is Haribol. Haribol back. So, with your activities dedicated to me and your mind and intelligence fixed on me, you will attain me. So this is the meaning you're on a good path. You're on a good path. So this is the recollection. Then absorption is the Bhagavad Gita 6:13-14. One should hold one's body, neck, and erect in straight line and stare steadily at the tip of the nose. It's meditation. And thus, which is this part we don't do, but we do the second part, with an unagitated, subdued mind, devoid of fear, completely free from sex life, one should meditate upon me with his heart and make me the ultimate goal of life. Meaning we slowly give up all these material disturbances and we just constantly meditate on Krishna, absorbed in Krishna. So this is the next stage from this running haphazardly around the world, as we call it in ISKCON, being mental. You know, this devotee, oh, he's mental. You know. What does it mean? He's mental means he's at this moment he thinks of Krishna, but he's not thinking of Krishna. Thinking of Krishna, not thinking of Krishna. This is mental. And devotees who are totally, you can say, fixed in their mind, as they say here, then this is called absorption. This is from Bhagavad Gita. And Prabhupada says the goal of life is to know Krishna, who is situated within the heart of every living being as Paramatma. So meaning that we see Krishna everywhere, in that sense. Then the next stage is meditation. In the Srimad-Bhagavatam, in the 3:28-18, it is said, one should meditate on the eternal form of the Lord until the mind becomes fixed. So one particular form of Krishna. You know, we develop slowly attachment to, you know, Radha and Krishna, or whatever the form, you know, Krishna as a cowherd boy, or, you know, whatever the desire we have. And we fix, you know, they said, na chavate manaha. This is Sanskrit. Not deviate, mind not deviated. Na chavate manaha. The mind is not deviating anymore. It's just, you know, if we say this in, Prabhupada gives this example of Madhavendra Puri. This verse is, wherever I sit, you know, all these practices I do, thank you very much, taking bath 3 times a day, mantras, this is nice. But wherever I sit, I think about youthful son of Nanda Maharaj playing in the courtyard. This is all, you know, so this is the constant, this is a meditation. Then we have a constant remembrance. Yokinam api sarvesham, madgatanantaratmana, shradavan bhajate yomam, same yuktatama mataha. And of all yogis, the one who is great faith always abides in me, meaning he's always thinking of Krishna, and within himself, and renders transcendental love in service to me. He is the most intimately united in yoga and is the highest of all. We are reading this morning in Nectar Devotion. Anybody remembers what we read in Nectar Devotion during the Mangalartik, after Mangalartik? Anybody? Yes? Shvakta Shtas? Yes, in the scene's mind, this devotee was thinking of offering Krishna in his mind. But he was wondering, I cooked a sweet rice, but maybe it's too hot. Because the sweet rice should be eaten cold. This is the instruction of Nectar Devotion. So for all the cooks, sweet rice should be eaten cold. Usually for the festivals, we cook sweet rice night before. Then cold becomes, all the sugar mixes, and then it becomes really tasty. So Haribol, sweet rice ki jai. So this devotee wanted to see, is the sweet rice hot? So he put his finger and he burnt his finger. So this is the Sensei who is always in me and renders transcendental loving service to me. This is like a next level. We actually start doing service to Krishna. Raghunath Das Goswami was also doing service to Krishna. This is also an example. I don't know exactly where from, Bhakti Ratnakara usually. They said that he was sick one day, Raghunath. So they brought a doctor, and the doctor says, overeating. And there's Raghunath Das Goswami overeating, you know. As we know, he was drinking one leaf cup of buttermilk. So how can Raghunath overeat? Is that overeating? Doctor said, you know, doctor is, at that time, the doctors were authorities, you know. Nowadays we go for a second opinion. But, you know, he said overeating. So they say how? So Raghunath later on, oh, maybe it's this, Raghunath says, because he was participating in the spiritual world in some big feast and he overate. And, you know, they pushed him to eat too much. You know, devotees, you know, would you like another scoop? And he said, no, Prabhu, no. But you're hoping he'll put without your will. You know, would you like this Prabhu was putting halwa in my plate. And I said, no. And he said, Tora, just take a little bit. Tore. And he put halwa in it. And I was thinking, yeah, I'll surrender. So Raghunath Das Goswami was also surrendering and got indigestion. And because in the spiritual world he ate the sweet rice. Anyways, let's go to the last one. It's called Samadhi or trance. This is 6:20 to 23. In that stage of perfection, Prabhupada said, called trance or samadhi, one's mind completely fixed, restrained from material and mental activities by practice of yoga. This perfection is characterized by one's ability to see the self by the pure mind and relish and rejoice in the self. Meaning they have nothing to do with any force anymore, you are just seeing who you are. In this joyous state, one is situated in boundless transcendental happiness. So this is the Sanskrit here, says, yatra uparamate. This is with the state with all material affairs ceasing or they're stopped. Why? Because one feels transcendental happiness. So this is this verse from Bhagavad Gita, which says, Param drishtva nivartate, vishavi nivartate, niraharasya dehinam, rasavajam rasapyasya param drishtva nivartate. That acquiring of higher taste, you're actually not interested in this lower taste anymore. We know Prabhupada, this is, I don't know, we don't know how true it is because it's said by one devotee, and apparently Prabhupada told only him, they were in the room alone, and Prabhupada says, the Krishna came to me and he asked me to come to the material world, and I said, oh, horrible. He didn't want to. He said, no, this is horrible. So this yatra uparamate, in that stage of affair, is all activities are ceased. Chittam niruddham, mental activities are restrained from matter. Even your mind is not anymore attached to matter. Now we attached to matter, we are striving in the morning, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, we try to chant, but there's like nothing anymore. There's no barriers. Then yoga sevaya, by performance of yoga, of the practice, atmanam pashan. By the pure mind, you can realize the position of the self and of your real self. So this is the verse saying, Mia, you just suddenly no more, you realize who you really are. We always say we are in a false ego, and this Mataji is in a false ego, this Prabhu is in a false ego platform. But we are all on the false ego platform until this point where you're not anymore on a false ego platform, you are really realizing the soul. Then tushyati sukham. One becomes satisfied and one is very happy. And this is called yoga samgitam, trance or yoga or samadhi. This is yoga samgitam, Prabhupada says. So this is the, the best meditation, you could say. And the best meditation for us, Prabhupada says, this is, I found this quotation and I liked it very much, is that nowadays people are very much inclined to the meditational process, which is not practical in this age. But if anyone practices meditating on Krishna, 24 hours chanting Hare Krishna mantra on his beads, he is surely the greatest yogi. So there are two ways, as we always describe this. One way is the way of Bhaktivinoda Thakur described, two ways of achieving perfection in his Jaiva Dharma. One way is the way of Gopal Guru Goswami, which is a meditation on Krishna, like we describe here, meditating on Krishna's form, fixing the mind, and we just meditate on Krishna's form. You chant and you think about Krishna's wearing little flowers around his ears, or his golden dhoti, or his flute playing. On the other hand, this is the way of Raghunath Das Goswami, and Prabhupada said here, this is the best meditation, is to 24 hours chant Hare Krishna mantra. So we are the followers of the second path of Raghunath Das Goswami, and our chanting should increase slowly from 16 rounds to 64 rounds to 120 rounds to 300 rounds, and on the end we should just chant constantly Hare Krishna mantra. And when somebody asks us something, we should answer Hare Krishna. And that person will understand. This is described in the Chaitanya Charitamrita. When the devotees were so much ecstatic, cleaning the Gondicha temple, and then they said because so ecstatic, and then one devotee would say Hare Krishna, and the other devotee said, oh, Hare Krishna. But first one wanted to say, can you bring me a bucket? And he said, Hare Krishna, I will bring you a bucket. So by chanting the Hare Krishna mantra, we will understand everything, and everything will be ecstatic. And we will just walk around and talk to each other, Hare Krishna, oh, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. And everything will be understood. I'm a little exaggerating, a little humor at the end. But the point is to chant 24 hours a day. Hopefully we'll achieve this one day, at least when we are older. So I thank you for your attention. Hare Krishna. Would you like to ask anything or comment? If you hear illustrious scholars. Yes, Ananda Krishna Prabhu.
Okay, these 5 stages, where is this actually from? Is it from?
I don't know. I read it somewhere, and I would say it's one of the acharyas, but because I opened so many things, and I can find it for you. Yeah. I think it's one of the acharyas. The commentaries are one of the acharyas. I would say Vishwanath, but don't quote me.
There's a mention of this in the Nectar of Instruction by Prabhupada, but it's not so detailed. So maybe.
No detail. I made the details. Yeah. I detailed it.
Like the technical terms, the Sanskrit terms.
Yeah, I'll find it. I'll find it.
Okay. Okay. Someone.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, thank you for your lecture. I wanted to
Thank
ask.
you for listening.
Welcome. I wanted to ask. We had yesterday a meeting, and then Trai Prabhu quoted this verse where Prahlad Maharaj is praying to Lord Nrsingadev when he appears that he doesn't want anything material, and that instead of like going to the Himalayas and meditating there on my own, he's not interested in that. Rather, he wants to go to the cities and preach. So what I always think of when I hear, okay, you should chant more and more and more rounds and 64 rounds, like, how is that to be understood with the aim of preaching what we are doing? When I chant 64 rounds, I barely have time for anything else. So how is that to be combined to evolve or get deeper in chanting more and more, but at the same time give some energy to the preaching?
Yes, so the answer is very simple. Prabhupada wanted us to preach Krishna consciousness, and then Prabhupada wanted us to go to the holy dhams to recharge the batteries So when you go to a holy dham, you do some extra chanting, extra reading. Instead of sightseeing, you know, we think, oh, finally there's no temple, I can do whatever I like, I can sleep until 9 because there's no temple. We should actually do the opposite. We should really get into reading and chanting in the holy dham. And then when you come back to preach, then you have recharged batteries. When you're 60 years old, 70 years old, you know, the preaching will be a little more difficult. And then you have preached already 40 years, 50 years. You can just sit and retire and chant Hare Krishna. So there's no... And also we have special days. Ekadashi, you can chant extra rounds on Ekadashi. You can chant extra rounds on, you know, particularly days like Janmashtami, Radhashtami. No, Radhashtami is noon, but Janmashtami, Nisimha Chaturdashi. Of course, here Nisimha Chaturdashi is big. You have to do things, but Janmashtami, just chant extra rounds. There's no breakfast, there's no lunch. Yes? Yeah, I could finish. Well, not necessarily.
Yeah, I think it is also something to do with the stages in life where we are and the sort of advancement. Because when we are mostly young, when we come to Krishna consciousness or something like that, our senses are very strong and they need to be engaged in some physical activities that they get purified. So it's easier for us to do, for me it's easier to do physical stuff, like even on the altar, than to sit down and chant Hare Krishna concentrated for long while. But I feel, when I look back, it's much more easier than when I came to Krishna consciousness. So I think if the senses get purified, our ability to chant becomes also more increasing. And in the end of our life, let's say when we are old and we can't do so much physical work anymore, then we can go more internally, and this goes then with the chanting of the Hare Krishna. So then we have time to chant more.
Yes, that's what we have in varnas and ashrams.
Yes.
You know, in Grihastha life, nobody expects you to chant huge amounts around your parent. You have children, you have to make money, you have to do things. And when you're vanaprastha, then you give up these things and you have more time to chant in here. And ultimately, sannyas should give up everything and actually just engage in study and, you know, develop in your spiritual life. So this is the different stages. But Prabhupada, there was once they asked Bhaktisiddhanta, this is the story of Bhakti Vikas Swami, because he studied story of Bhakti Siddhanta Maharaj. And he said that they asked Bhaktisiddhanta, his disciple Maharaj, you ask us to chant 64 rounds in the mat, those who live in the mat. But I see that only you chant only 64 rounds. The others are not chanting. And the Maharaj said, you don't see it, but I see it. And he was shocked, how do you... He said, because by being engaged in Krishna service, this is equally good as chanting the rounds. So, of course, that doesn't mean that we should not stop our chanting our rounds, but it's ultimately everything connected to Krishna in the sense, you know, we do service for Krishna, it's actually not different from ultimately chanting Hare Krishna. And particularly preaching. Nowadays in ISKCON, every temple in the West is actually connected to a preaching mission. Even if you don't want to preach, even if you do cooking and, you know, never, you know, always begrudging and never, you know, you're still participating in preaching because you cook and people come to guests and eat prasadam. You know, or deity worship, or whatever we do, you know. So everything is somehow connected to preaching. But we should not, the point of Vedasara Prabhu at the end, not think like, okay, I'm preaching, I don't need to do my sadhana, which I've seen in the past many devotees did, and they suffered for this reason, neglected the sadhana, and they were thinking, I'm preaching. We do our sadhana honestly, and I mean, you can always chant some extra rounds or read extra, or it's not like not forbidden to do this. Especially when you go to Vrindavan. Because in Vrindavan there's not much to do. really, all day. You hear lecture, then there's a prasad, and then you just sit there, and that's it. You know, then and I see devotees, many devotees space out. I remember when we sent first devotees from here to Vrindavan, few of them returned not in the best shape. One of them wanted to leave the movement or left the movement, and because they went there and they had a time, you know, free time, and they were just like thinking about life. So then I'm not going to go back there to the temple. Yes, go Birgit.
Okay, I think it's on. Just on the point of sleeping, because we heard that at the end of our lives we should aim for 2 hours. Sometimes it's quite common, I think, that devotees are known to sleep, maybe not sleep enough, and maybe that's okay, but sometimes, say for example, I have with the ashram, when the ladies sleep very little, it's hard for them sometimes to deal with their regular stuff, you know, maybe more emotional, you know, you're having a conversation and the person is not quite there. You know, I've heard, so for example, my guru would advise sometimes when you're not really coping, then maybe you should, you know, moderate. So they go to bed late and wake up late, or not just them, but Prabhus also, but, you know, just on that point.
I think now there's no problem with this, you know, I think. Because this was before in the 80s and 90s, people tried to sleep less, you know, Rupa Goswami. I think nowadays, not really.
It's
They still do.
the ones
The
in
new
the
ones.
temple,
The
not
new ones.
outside.
Oh, okay. Yeah, so then you should tell them sleep more. You know, I usually tell to my, you know, if I the bhaktas, and I see that they are tired, I say, go to sleep. Just go to sleep. Or if they fall asleep on the lecture, while the lecture is going on, you just tell them, why don't you just go to sleep? Because Prabhupada said, this is one of my favorite quotes, if you're tired, take rest. I had this quote, you know, I was thinking, well, Prabhupada said it, you know. If somebody is tired, just sleep. If somebody's like, oh, you know, and you can see after 2-3 days, nobody can make it longer than 2-3 days, you know. And there's the, you know, the hitting the pole, you know, like this, and then you just say, why don't you just take a rest? I did once, you know, I was very fanatical when I was young brahmachari. I wanted to sleep 4 hours, you know, this was my goal of life. And I was going to bed at 12 at midnight, and I was waking up at 4 o'clock in the morning. So from around 8 to 12, I would just read, you know, just read. And 12:00, I go to bed, and I talk to one Russian Ayurvedic doctor, devotee. Some of our Ayurvedic doctors were Russians at that time. So he told me how to sleep, how to lay down, how to leave my hands. And he said, in this way, you can sleep less. So I slept 4 hours like this. And after like maybe 10 days, my guru said, Jasachi, why don't you go to Delhi? And there was a friend of mine. He said, go and stay with him a couple of days and sleep. And I didn't, you know, because I thought I'm doing, you know, great. But then when I went there and I looked at myself in the mirror, I looked like a, you know, one of those creatures from whatever, Black Lagoon, you know. And then I said, and I went to this doctor actually. I said, can I? And he said, yeah, just stay here. And he gave me one place to sleep there. And I slept maybe 18 hours or something like that. And I remember I woke up to go to the bathroom and I had no idea where am I, what is, and I just went to the bathroom just like, whoosh. And when I woke up, I was fine. And 3 days I was sleeping well, and I went back fired up to the service, you know. So just sleep. So the leader of the bhaktas or bhaktins should see it, you know, this is a fanatical person, or sometimes they don't dress well, or I also went through this phase. In Vrindavan, walking barefoot in winter time. Everything is frozen, the ice, and I'm walking barefoot. I'm Rupa Goswami. You know. So you see they're fanatical like this, and you just correct them, tell them, well, you should dress something. You know, at the same time, there's no harm if you try a little bit, you know, but like I went to a book distribution with 70 books in my backpack. 70. This is so heavy in my back. And 20 books, I want to do like 100 books. 20 books in my 22, up to here. 22 books and 70 books in the backpack. And sometimes like 4 hours I distribute only 4 books. You know? And my back is like killing me. I said, no, let it burn, you know, it's for Krishna. This is stupid, you know. And then somebody said, why don't you check this, you know, weekly, you know. It's same, you're carrying the books, but I said, no, it's not painful enough. You know. Stupid, this is stupid. You know. But, you know, so then somebody says, why don't you just, you know, and also not sleeping and this. Or there was a time we went at 6 to 6 on book distribution, 6 in the morning to 6 in the evening. In the rain, you're like, excuse me, sir, you know. It's too much, you know. Just be regulated. That's why Germany is a good country, you know. People are regulated, and they can understand what regulation means. Just be regulated. Temple program itself is good enough. You know, wake up in the morning, 4 o'clock, go to bed at 9 or 8. There's nothing after 8. Nothing's going on here. Go to bed early. Wake up. There's a program. Everything is regulated. Food, everything is regulated. You don't need to invent anything. Warm water, as they say. You invent the wheel again. You know. Just be normal and practice fall of temple life, and that's going to be okay. If you have a fanatical nature, like I did, I don't know, do I still have it? Then you do some extra, but you know, be careful. Be careful. Also eating, I remember I was eating like one chapati, because Rupa Goswami, you know, no, Sanatana Goswami. When I was in Vrindavan, I was going often to Sanatana Goswami Samadhi. And not many Indians at that time, almost nobody goes to this Samadhi. So every time I go, they gave me maha of Sanatana Goswami. They offer him one bhati. You know bhati? Bhati is like you take flour and you mix it with Yamuna water, make a ball, and put it in the open fire. And it burns from the outside completely black, and inside is uncooked. And this is what Sanatana Goswami ate. He ate one of those. No salt. Huh? So every time I go, they gave me, I was like, wow, nectar. So I wanted to live like this, you know. So I ate one chapati, I make something, I burn it, you know, and I eat one a day. It's horrible. And then after, you know, somebody makes halwa and I eat like huge plate. You know. So it's not realistic. Just tell them don't be on a trip, or, you know, of course we should respect people, their own, you know, how you say, everybody has their own way. But at the same time, when somebody's on a trip, you just say, don't be on a trip, you know, cool down, you know, just sleep. This is what I usually did. When I give lecture and see somebody's tired, and I just tell them, just go to sleep, and I'll wake you up for breakfast. You know. Just go to sleep. All right. So I thank you very much. You know, it was nice to be here, and maybe we'll see us again, you know, in December. If there's a higher powers allow us, you know, everything depends on the Lord. As Bhaktisanta would always say, this and this will happen if Krishna allows. So, Vanchakalpadurvascha, Kripasindubhyevacha, Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Srila Prabhupada ki Jai, Srimad-Bhagavatam ki Jai, Shri Krishna with garland of on ears ki Jai.